you mentioned James Brown, everybody connected to this business, and probably everybody in the towns that he's lived in has a James Brown story because he was so big in just internationally, but certainly in the black community. And so now, in talking to people, you have to figure out who's telling the truth and who's trying to hustle you, because people say, well, I can tell you some James Brown stories. What you got? I'm sure you ran into that.
I ran into quite a bit. I mean, look, you've been in the radio business for a long time, right? 45 years, I heard you say. So you understand the struggle it would involve to get a story like this.
Absolutely.
It helped that I was a musician, because I really wasn't interested in James Brown performance stories. Because as I was explaining to you backstage, after a musician plays, they don't want to talk about the performance. You can come to musicians, this was great, I love the way you did. Musicians say, do we eat now? Where's the hotel? Because, I mean, you're doing the job. So I wasn't interested in the job. I was interested in what happens after the job is finished. Because after the job is finished is where James Brown and thousands of musicians, particularly African-American musicians and country musicians to some degree, live, which is you're handing your culture over to the world and you're getting paid for it. James Brown got paid for it, and he suffered tremendously. He really suffers even in death now because his estate is tied up, but the musicians who played with him, who I had the chance to meet, suffered tremendously. And so I saw this as an opportunity to really illuminate the world of music from the perspective of musicians, in particular black musicians who create this culture, and they never get paid for it. And that's something that I really relate to personally. The best compliment I get from people who read this book is when musicians read it and say, thank you for telling my story, because the story of Black American musicians are witness to the real elements of racism in America more than any other group, and I'll tell you why. Because they cook the grits, they cook the gravy, they cook the mashed potatoes, and then they get $50 to hand it to someone, and someone goes to Europe, and they take them same grits and mashed potatoes, and they feed it back to you as rock and roll, and they say what a great guy that old guitar player was, and that old guitar player that's my friend, that's my uncle. These are people I know, and they die in relative anonymity. So that was my real payment for doing the James Brown book. The thing is, what you revere as history is the problem. Because as great as the Chicago Symphony is, they play music, but most of their music, I don't live here. Maybe they're playing American composers all year long, all the time. But we certainly know around Christmas, they're playing music that's written by people who have been certifiably dead for many, many years. Now,
Handel's Messiah, okay.
So, yeah. I think that the real issue is, how do you view art in society? Because that's really the true question that lives beneath the story of James Brown and everyone like him. This is really my last appearance to talk about this book. Because what this book has done is, if you're a novelist, if you're a creative artist, finding out this kind of information and living with it, because you have to live with it to write it well, it takes part of your innocence away. And you have to have that in order to be a novelist and a person who writes to the commonality of man and woman. In music and in writing and in any kind of building, there's always a moment where you say, I think I fitted it together. It connects. There's a connectivity to art. And so with anything, whether it be music or writing or stonemasonry or carpentry or plumbing, the connectivity is really the thing that powers it all. And so when we hear music, we're just hearing our souls connect with someone else's for that 5 or 7 minute period, or if it's an opera for a 2-hour period, or however long. And then when the music ends, the problem that I have is when the music ends, the connectivity that the music pushes into your soul ends when you walk out the theater. It shouldn't end there. The truth is in the music. That's all that needs to be said.